Welcome to Cybersecurity District, the podcast where we interview the most inspiring minds in the cybersecurity industry. Get ready to meet our next guest in the district. Today I have the pleasure to interview Carlo Schreurs. With over 25 years of dedicated experience, he's a visionary CISO and technology director, passionately driving digital and technology transformation. Recognized as the Tom Inspirational Leader of the Year, his career journey spans influential technology leadership roles at Friesland Campina, IBM, VUG Services, and Cognizant. He's currently the CISO at Friesland Campina, where he leads the cybersecurity transformation across 33 countries, and the company has more than 23,000 employees with an annual revenue of more than $14 billion a year. That's a huge company. And one of the companies where Dutch people are very proud of. And I'm very proud to have you on the show today, Carlo. Welcome.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Super interesting to hear more about your career as a CISO, but only for the last year, I believe, because you have a completely different background. But also to hear more about the cybersecurity aspect within the dairy industry. The Dutch people, of course, we're farmers, so very interesting to know how farming, dairy, and cybersecurity go hand in hand. So thank you.
Yeah, we have more than 130 years of heritage. So that's great.
And now it's all across the world. We're helping farmers, I believe.
Yep.
Before we dive into the cybersecurity aspect, I was just curious, what do you like to do when you're not working or studying? What are some of the interests that you have?
I'm a big fan of sports.
Yeah.
So watching sports, but also doing sports. When I was very young, I was playing football, but that was ultimately not my passion. I ended up doing karate a long while until my children were born. Then I had a few injuries and I decided to stop. But I had my black belt. I went into competition and it was really nice. Then I moved over to doing triathlons. And I also finished half Ironman in Netherlands. So that was nice. But eventually I came back to Budo sports again. So currently I'm doing kickboxing.
Okay. You seem like a tough guy.
Really nice. I think people who do Budo are usually very, constrained. So that's good.
Okay. And what are some things from karate that you learned back then that you now implement in your work? Maybe the discipline part?
Yeah, it's discipline. It's also if you really set your mind to something like winning a competition or getting your black belt, or you really need to be determined and have a plan, because getting a black belt requires a couple of years of training and practicing, etc. And it's also nice, right? Sometimes you need to step forward, sometimes you need to step sideways, and it's the same in business. Sometimes you need to choose your battles, or sometimes step a little bit aside or step back, and it's like in daily life, right?
It's like the strategic aspect of it.
Yeah.
And I saw the first study that you completed was aeronautical engineering. So basically how to build and construct airplanes.
Yeah.
Was that also an interest back then? And how did you come about picking that study?
Yeah, usually I was when I was, I don't know, 7, 8, I wanted to become a fighter pilot in the army. And usually, people have that, like, I want to be a fireman, or I want to be the ASO, I want to be that, or I want to be the police, or whatever. And usually after a couple of years, that changes. But for me, I was really determined to become a fighter pilot. So I studied my secondary school, and then I went for the, for the selection process. And I got through all the psychology test. How you call it? Psychology.
Yeah.
There's a lot of rounds. Then you need to go, and then you need to spend the night there, and then you go through all the tests. And a lot of people were sent home, but eventually we got through the test. But then they did a small test at the end of the day, and then I was at the waiting room for the doctor, just checking your eyes. And then I was just in the waiting room looking at the sign, and I was thinking, oh, it's a bit vague. And then eventually they found a little deviation in my eye, which was -1 or something, but it was enough to be sent home. And that, so my world collapsed, honestly speaking.
Yeah.
But after a couple of months, I was thinking, like, what do I do now? And Then I was thinking, yeah, if I cannot fly them, maybe build them. Maybe it's really youth enthusiastic or whatever. And then, so yeah, I went to the Haarlem Polytechnic. I finished the study in 4 years. It was really a broad study. It was not only about airplanes, etc. It's very broad. But during these 4 years, I was thinking like, oh, okay, this is nice. I like the technology part, but there's more to the world. I have a broad interest. And then eventually ended up also in the University of Amsterdam, where I finished my study about we call it politics, and where I really focused on organizational change management,
Yeah.
legal aspect of it.
And you've been doing that for the last 25 years.
Yeah,
Yeah. But all really in all sorts of roles. 'Cause you've been a CISO now almost for a year,
yeah,
but you've also been a CIO and I saw even account management,
yeah.
transformational lead. Can you quickly walk us through your career and how did you end up at the CISO, one of the biggest companies that the Netherlands has ever seen?
Yeah, so eventually, like I said, I have very broad interests. So I have a technology background. I have more of a Master of Business Administration background. Eventually, I ended up in a traineeship in IBM, where they both were two streams. One was the technology stream. The other one was more the project management leadership stream. So I went for the leadership stream. After the traineeship, I did project management, program management, and managed small teams. Teams got bigger. So eventually grew up in IBM, let's call it like that. And then the last couple of years in my career, I did a lot of work on outsourcing. So managing large outsourcing contracts for big players in the outsourcing field. And then after, I think, 11 years of IBM, I was thinking like, yeah, great company. Really look back with a lot of joy to IBM. But I was also thinking like, yeah, most people who stay more than 10, 13 years in IBM, they stay there. So they're so blue and
Yeah.
difficult to accustom to other situations. So I decided to leave, broaden my horizon. So I joined Fujitsu Services as a board member, leading the technology operations and projects. Did that for 3 years. Then I went to Cognizant, where I was responsible for continental Europe for project management architecture. And then I think after 17 years, I was thinking like, ooh, this is interesting, this consultancy stuff. It would be great to have more of an endurance, multi-year involvement in setting the strategy somewhere around technology. Then Friesland Campina came by. I think it was 2012, something like that. I joined there, first being responsible for infrastructure services. Then we integrated all infrastructure, applications, process innovation into one organization, which I led, a couple of hundreds of people. And then I set it up from scratch until it was rather mature. And then, I wanted to work a little bit more in the front line again. So I became a business group CIO for different groups in the organization. And then after a reorganization, we decided to move away from this business group focus into more horizontal streams on commerce, supply chain, etc. Then I become responsible for all commercial systems in Friesland Campina. But yeah, and when our previous CISO decided to leave, they said like, yeah, based on your knowledge of the organization, your knowledge of IT, your transformational interest, would you be interested to take up the CISO role? That was somewhere in January, February this year, and that's where it started. Let's say my new career.
Yeah. Oh, it's kind of a new venture for you then.
Yeah.
And how does it feel so far? What are the first 12 months like?
Yeah, it's not like a complete shift, right? It is. I've been working in business and IT for the last 28 years, something like that. So in previous roles, cybersecurity was always a part, or a great part of my role. So it's not completely new, but of course, being 100% involved in cybersecurity is a new area. I really like it. But like I said, I think after 28 years, you've seen a lot. But it is a new area. If you're 100% focused on cybersecurity, I learn a lot, speak to a lot of people. What I really love about cybersecurity, that if you're in different areas, if you speak to competitors or other organizations, there's always some resistance to share information. In cybersecurity, I reached out to competitors. I spoke to Dutch Railways, PostNL, whatever. Everybody is so willing to help. or to think along or to share or to, because they all say, yeah, we have the same enemy, regardless of whether we are in the same industry or not. Just help each other, right? So I spoke to the global CISO of Fonterra, which is one of our competitors. They're based in Australia and New Zealand. Yeah, they were also willing to help and to share, and we are sharing with them, and yeah, it's great.
Yeah, that's rather unique. Yeah.
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 And what I also noticed is there are a lot of events and congresses about cybersecurity. You can spend more than a week with that.
Yeah. You can go from event to event.
Event to event. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but it's I hear that a lot actually. That companies are really helping each other, and that's what I want to ask you, because I know for the banking sector, a lot of CISOs they just come together, really to help each other as well, and share insights. But I was thinking Friesland Campina as a dairy company in the Netherlands, there are not a lot of other dairy companies with the same size. You're really the market leader.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, how do you go about, because you cannot call a CISO that's doing exactly the same. You mentioned the Dutch railway system, but of course they have much other risk involved. Yeah.
And they are, of course, that's a different level.
Yeah.
Because they're a critical infrastructure, of course. And
but you just call the competitor based from Australia.
no, it was not like, hey, I'm Carlo, and let's talk. But I think we spoke to one of our consultancies that is helping us in some of the programs that we have, and then they say like, oh, it's interesting. We also working with, in this case was Fonterra. We know the CISO there. Would you be interested to speak to him? He's willing to speak to you and interested to speak to you. And then then it evolves like that, right?
Yeah.
Or you meet somebody and says like, I know, for instance, the CIO currently of PostNL, and then that starts to roll. Yeah, I think Dimitri, I just reached out and saying like, hey, through a mutual connection we had, hey, can we talk? You're seen as one of the leading persons in Netherlands, so yeah, would be willing to learn. Because I was thinking like, yeah, I know cybersecurity. I'm reading about it, I'm learning about it, but I think for me the biggest benefit is to speak to other organizations and other leaders in the industry and just see what they're doing and what I think I like or don't like, what I can copy and what they can copy from us. And yeah, it's really nice.
Oh, very interesting. And you mentioned that the Dutch railway system is of course critical infrastructure. But is the biggest dairy company of the Netherlands, is that not considered critical?
From a regulatory perspective, we are not seen as critical infrastructure, like for instance Essent or Dutch Railways. Of course, with NIS2 it's going to change.
Yeah.
Then also food companies will become part of the whole legislation from the European Union, and so we'll be seen as critical from that perspective. So they're broadening the scope, but yeah, like we discussed, it's critical from a sense that we need to provide food to the world. So in the Netherlands, but we're providing food products to over 100 countries in the world. We have production locations in more than 35 countries in the world. So from that perspective, there's a different angle to everything.
Sounds pretty damn critical to me.
Yeah, it's critical because what happens in our production process is that so of course we are collecting milk at the farmers. Every 3 days there's a milk collection van coming to the farmer. Then they bring it to the factories, or it's being exported, and then it's being treated in the factory to make milk out of it, or we're sending it to Nigeria to make condensed milk out of it, or it goes to Hungary or whatever. And very difficult logistic process to understand. We have a complete department looking around at how all these streams are going. But at the end of the day, what for me is important is continuity. So data protection is one, but continuity is something else. Like I said, we're collecting milk every 3 days at the farmers. We have over 15,000 contributors. So people who provide milk to us.
Yeah.
Member farmers, we call them. Yeah, and that's an ongoing process that cannot stop. So we have to make sure that process continues.
What are the main challenges from a cybersecurity perspective that you face there? If you look at the attack surface, what are parts that you really feel, okay, that within our own systems, that's the most critical part?
Yeah, of course, we have what we call, like every organization, we have defined our crown jewels.
Yeah.
So our milk collection system, we are working with SAP. So we have multiple large applications running. Yeah, also we have a large OT stack, operational technology stack. So I think in the past we were very active on our IT stack. We've done a lot, standardized. We're working a lot now on our OT stack. We're also converging IT with OT, like every organization is doing. Yeah, OT, our factories, of course, that's a key part of our process. So
Yeah. But if you have these factories, I think you mentioned 35 countries.
yeah, I think we have over 45 factories, and we're active in more than 30 countries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's insane.
And that goes from here in the Netherlands. We have factories in Veghel, in Borculo, in Maasdam. But we also have factories in Jakarta, Indonesia, in Vietnam, in Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah. But the regular tendency with OT security, some people say I really love it, but it's so damn difficult because there's so much legacy.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to go from IT to OT security. And I think you've always been also on the IT side.
Yeah.
What is it now to protect the OT side as the CISO, not as a regular
Yeah.
manager protecting one side, but overseeing his whole operation across the whole world?
Yeah, when I was business group CIO for our ingredients business, yeah, we're also very depending on OT, supply chain, etc. So I think everybody who works in Friesland Campina is very ingrained into the supply chain and the importance of supply chain, etc. And although we are very much IT focused in the past, OT was supply chain was also a big part of our business, especially as an IT guy. So yeah, it's not that that OT was new; it was always there.
Yeah.
But OT security and comparing it to IT security, it's a different ballgame.
Yeah.
We just need to get accustomed to it, I think.
No, because you mentioned the first years of your career has always been more on the consultancy side.
Yeah.
And then you left Cognizant to join sort of the end client. And you picked Friesland Campina, but I'm sure you could have worked at a lot of different organizations. You've seen so many industries. But why did you
Yeah.
specifically pick Friesland Campina and the dairy industry?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not always like all the choices are on the table, right? So I was, after 3 years, of thinking like, yeah, it would be great to move over to a organization. I really like organizations that produce physical products that you can see, you can smell, you can touch. You can go to a factory, you can talk to people there who are proud of producing it. So that's one. Secondly, yeah, I really like to work for, how do you call it, larger organizations, because it gives a lot of opportunity and can make a lot of impact there. And three, Friesland Campina is, of course, a company with a lot of, how do you call it, heritage, and it exists for 150 years. Yeah, good branding, great products. So yeah, for me, everything fell together when I had the opportunity to join.
Yeah. Because what products do you offer? I'm always mesmerized by the diversity of products. I just think yogurt, milk, probably cheese. That's it. But I think there's so many more
Yeah.
products.
Yeah, we have a few global brands, which I think Friso is one. It's food for babies, but we have a lot of regional brands. Like I think in Netherlands, especially people in Netherlands will know milk, yogurt, cheese, etc. But if you go to Africa, for instance, we produce condensed milk, so it's powder milk, because you can keep it longer, and they use it through their milk, or they do it in all kind of products. It's basically a primary essential food ingredients for them. If you go to Asia, we have a lot of products around baby food. We have Frisian flag in Asia. So there's a range of products. We have Noi Noi in Hungary. We have Peak in Nigeria, Frisian flag in Asia. So there are all kind of brands that are very regional throughout the world.
And I want to dive a bit deeper in the moment that the former CISO left,
Yeah.
and then the organization is okay. We have an interesting position opening up, a very
Yeah.
important position. Then they first gonna scan through the organization, and then they think, hey, what about Carlo? Or Were you already raising your hand, or how did that go?
Yeah, I had a physical problem last year. Went to surgery, so I was off for a certain period. And when I came back, I was thinking like, oh yeah, I'm going back to my old role, which was responsible as global director for commercial systems. Or do I want something new? So I was thinking like I want to go a little bit more in the content again. Not saying that commercial was not content, but I knew that. I want to drive transformation, and then yeah, the role came by, and then everything falls together. Saying like, oh, we need a global CISO for our organization. Hey, you bring a lot of experience around the company. You've seen all the business groups. You have a lot of IT experience. You know cybersecurity, and you can drive transformation. So I think every organization will pick the CISO that it deserves at that moment in time, or that it needs. Somebody who can go to the board, who can explain we're here, we need to move here based on what I see in the market. This is the transformational path. This is the risk. I think we should the risk appetite we should be taking. This is the transformational path we're going through, but also the storytelling. So go to your board, go to your top 200, convince them about what needs to happen, go into the business groups, share the story with IT, share the story with your own team, and then start working on the story and develop it. I think that was at the moment in time what we need.
You're probably the first person that I sit down with.
Yeah.
And I've spoken with a lot of CISOs that doesn't have that strong cyber background.
No.
But when you explain it now, I think it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But you probably need a very good team of technical people around you.
Yeah.
And that's also when you talk about transformation. Yeah, what was it for you the first day? Were you nervous? Because it is also scary stepping into a new field, but with that responsibility of a
Yeah.
CISO, what was it scary, or did it feel comfortable? Did you trust the people around you?
Yeah, like I said, I was not when I was 15. I was not hacking a bank, or I was not taking parts of a computer and putting them all together. We couldn't afford a computer, so it was even difficult. At that day, I need to do my study from the library sometimes to because we didn't have a computer at that moment in time. But um, yeah, what was the first day? I think there was because the previous yeah no I think the team really needed focus and attention at that moment in time due to some circumstances that happened, and yeah, it was just gaining their trust. There were quite some changes in leadership just before that, so I think they needed somebody who could they rely on for a couple of years to build the storyline, build the strategy. Yeah, honestly speaking, I made a conscious choice to step in. I knew what I was stepping into. I knew what was going well. I knew what needed focus. And yeah, honestly speaking, I just stepped in, and yeah, the train was moving, and I was just pulling the levers where to go with the train, basically.
I love it. It's very promising also for people that are listening and that don't have a strong technical background. You still can become a CISO of a global organization without that technical knowledge, and I think
Yeah,
that's very much key.
yeah,
But I'm also curious, how did you then win the trust? Because I know cybersecurity professionals, especially the techies, they want to talk bits and bytes, and then there's the new lead stepping in who doesn't know the final details. How did you do it?
no, that's true. Um, yeah, like they always say, the guy with the most technical knowledge is not always the best leader of the team.
Yeah,
And sometimes you have this Peters principle that this great architect or whatever is being promoted to a leadership role, and then suddenly it stalls. I think that it's not that I completely out of the blue became the CISO and say like, oh, I need to learn all over again. I'm in this industry for 28 years. I know cybersecurity, I know technology, I know architectures, etc. So I have a solid background in IT, understanding supply chain, understanding cybersecurity, etc. True, I didn't work 100% in cybersecurity in the past. Um, and yes, I don't have a KPMG or regulatory background, or I'm not a hacker or whatever. I think, but at that moment in time, how I gained trust was more, yeah, showing that people, hey, I have the experience, I have the trust of the board. after 2 months of being in the role, we, together CIO and myself, we went to the board where we said like, hey, this is where we are. This is the risk appetite potentially that we advise you to take. This is where we're heading. This is what we require. So on one side, I did some interventions in the team with people saw like, hey, it makes sense. They saw their storyline. They saw the strategy. They understood where I was trying to go. And yeah, they really bought into it. And I brought some stability there. And yeah, I think they liked it. Also, my colleagues around me, after showing what I was doing, I got already very quickly some confirmations like, "Hey, we really like what you're doing." So that was encouraging, and since then we've been going. And we measure our maturity, of course. There are a lot of measures in an organization, and we said like, from a maturity point of view, we're here. At the end of the year, we want to be here. These are our focus areas, and we just did a assessment with an external consultancy, saying like, "Hey, where are we today?" Well, basically they confirmed where we wanted to be at this moment in time. So our journey seems to be successful. Also in the area where we really put a lot of emphasis on this year. So and that's also confirmation to the team saying like, yeah, we started something. We put a lot of effort in it. For instance, we put a lot of effort in first line of defense, strengthening that. I have a team which is very knowledgeable, but yeah, to protect the 14 billion company, you cannot do that with a central cybersecurity team. You need the IT teams, the business teams also to step up and do their role, daily operations in the projects. We focused a lot on strengthening the first line because we thought like we need to multiply our efforts. If we're successful in multiplying our efforts, we are much more capable of protecting this organization. And that's where we spend a lot of effort on this year. And I think so far in the journey we are on track. Let's call it like that.
Well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful ride. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the best day so far of being a CISO?
The best day.
Yeah, that you celebrate a success. Maybe it's this what you just shared.
Yeah, that was nice. Yeah, I think you get a feeling by the feedback you're getting from the board or from the CIO or from people in the business, like, yeah, are we on the right track? And what is the right track? But apparently it resonates with the people. And then when you get the confirmation, like we are here on this glide path and we still have a lot to do. Don't get me wrong. We're on the journey. But if you get the confirmation like, hey, we are on track with the journey we identified, I think that's nice.
Yeah.
It would be a dissatisfier if they would say like it's lower than what you expected. But
yeah, and with such a huge organization spread across the world, how do you go about setting priorities? And also you step in as the new leader, but how do you go about picking what's important and perhaps even out of my own curiosity, that could be a second question, or but how to deal with emails coming in. I feel you're like a central point, so much traffic and information goes through you.
Yeah.
But you only have say 10 hours per day that you're capable.
I have a family.
And then you like to do some
Proud
sports.
father of 2 daughters. Yeah.
And then you love to watch some sports on the side as well.
Yeah.
So how do you cope with all of that? Because you can only focus maybe on the top 5 or 10% of the things that are most important. But how do you pick your battles?
Yeah, you cannot be involved in all the details, or sometimes people are reaching out saying like, oh, how do I need to do this? And then we need to canalize them to the service desk or have somebody help them or whatever. That's fine. Yeah, basically, I think how we're approaching it now is saying like, we were working with an external company saying like, okay, if you look at our organization and you look where we are today, what would be our biggest threats according to you? Of course, we speak to business leaders, we speak to the board, we speak to people in IT, and we get a sense like, where are potential gaps, where are potential vulnerabilities, and we pull that together. And based on that, we've defined 5 strategic priorities that we work on, OT being one of them. And we rigorously almost execute that plan, saying like, okay, NIS2 is coming, we need to be prepared for NIS2. We have a quite successful awareness program. I don't like the word awareness too much because it's more, people are aware. They shouldn't be aware. They should be changing their behaviors, right?
Yeah.
If we do a phishing test, there's still not that much, but still too much people who click a phishing mail and even provide their credentials. So what do you do to change their behavior? So aware is great. changing the behavior, of course, is what makes the difference between being attacked or not. So how can you change behavior, and how can you do that in a very focused way? So that is the second area. The third area is, of course, more the technology part. So your cyber defense, your red teaming, your security operations center. Yeah, how do you set it up in such a way that even if people make a mistake, you can technology-wise protect them? So that is a third area, and would also be, we're talking a lot about AI being a threat. Yes, I understand. Becoming more sophisticated. They can make more sophisticated phishing mails. They can even scan your landscape continuously. But we're also using it to our advantage, saying like, we speak to other organizations saying like, okay, how can you use artificial intelligence to do automatic pen testing, red teaming, etc. Right? I think that's the other side of the coin. Fourth area is OT. Yeah, of course, that speaks for itself. And the fifth area for us is really elevating our cybersecurity posture throughout the organization. So not having a central team, but also having first line of defense in IT, but also outside of IT that's very effective. Our top 200 understanding what the cybersecurity risks are, how they should behave, lead by example, etc. So we have a program focused on these 5 areas.
And what happens if all of a sudden you get a karate kick in your
Yeah,
face?
yeah,
Because that could also happen.
yeah.
And then with a company this size, of course, that would also happen. But does it throw away your whole plan? Because as a CISO, you might have learned already you have to step in on Sunday evening.
Yeah,
Shit happens, and you have to step up.
yeah. I was responsible in the past also for our global operations for Friesland Campina, where we had like every organization, we had a few incidents, crises maybe, or at least we call it P1, right? A significant P1, which we needed to manage.
What does it mean, a P1?
Yeah, it's a priority 1.
Okay,
So
yeah.
basically, say if you have an incident, it's, I don't know, P4 means like there's only one individual is affected, cannot work on his laptop until we have 5 production locations down because SAP is not working, right? That's a P1, because then the company is really under stress.
I love that. P1 sounds more casual.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's typical Friesland Campina term. I don't think so. I think it's broader used, but
Maybe from the army or
priority
something.
1, P1, it means priority 1.
Sir, we have a P1. It's like, oh,
P1.
shit.
If you say P1 in the organization, everybody will say, "Oh, that's not good." So yeah, we managed a few in the past. So managing a crisis or managing a major impact of a P1, I think priority 1 we know. And yeah, that's also a little bit of the mindset I brought to the team, saying like every time something happens, they say, "Yeah, we're not 100% protected." Yeah, that's an infinity game, right? As Simon Sinek calls it. Which organization is 100% protected? I think that's that's a theoretical discussion. So what I tried to change the mindset into is saying like, hey, given what we can do, given the decisions that the board has made, given our plan, we're on the right track. And yeah, things will happen. We, like you said, we will get kicks or we will have incidents, but that's what I also see happening in the industry, right? There's a lot of focus on defense and making sure you're not attacked or an attack will not be successful, into partly also, if you're attacked, how do you handle it?
Yeah.
What's your resilience? So I think that's also for the future one of the things that we need to focus on is becoming more resilient and thinking, if something happens, how do we handle it? And what can we learn from it? If something happens, it happened. It happened maybe for a reason. And then we need to look like, okay, what can we learn from it? And how can we make it more resilient for the future, or how can we even protect it for the future? And I think that's a healthy mindset, because if you're continuously saying like, oh, that didn't go well and people are in big stress, you wear out people. And then there's a lot of people who have burnouts in cybersecurity, I understand. So
And for the dairy industry, what could a P1 mean for society? So what are the risk if there's really a major incident? What's the impact on society? You know, that's what makes it so fascinating to work for Friesland Campina.
So at least to my knowledge, I'm there for 12 years, something. I cannot recall such an incident, but if it really a factory would be down, of course, that we cannot produce for Netherlands milk or yogurts or whatever. yeah, then you will see that in the stores of Albert Heijn and other organizations. To my knowledge, it has not happened while I was there, also in previous roles. But yeah, I think we are also depending in the chain on our network partners. So, for instance, we have a partner, multi-million company that produces cans, and we use the cans to store our baby powder in, for instance. They had a significant ransomware attack. I think they're still working on recovering from that. It was even years ago, but
Wow.
the final blow, I think they're still working on that. And then we didn't receive any cans, so we could not produce. Yeah, we could produce milk, but could not store it, and we could not export it. And then, yeah, that affects our company. So it's not only our own organization
Yeah.
not be able to work, but also if somewhere in the chain something goes wrong, like for instance this can producer, then yeah, we're in trouble.
I would say this type of company is also a very interesting target for state actors. Because if you can
Yeah,
really mess around with the food supply and the milk supply of a whole country, and it's not only the Netherlands, but multiple countries across
yeah,
the world,
yeah,
you probably have to deal with state actors, and state actors are usually not the actors you want to deal with. They're pretty sophisticated and they have a lot of manpower to cause harm.
yeah.
Is that also the group that you fear most?
I cannot say too much about it, but yeah, we of course we are monitoring that. So far, we're okay on that.
So far, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's always like it's always difficult. You can also be indirectly be attacked. I think it happened to Maersk as
Yep.
part of the Russia-Ukraine situation. I think eventually Maersk was hit, and I think they were not how do you call it, a primary attack partner, but it was more a consequence of something else happening.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's direct attacks, but you also can be indirectly involved, and of course, both we need to focus on.
And with previous roles as a CIO, it might be more like a 9 to 5 or maybe 9 to 9 type of job.
Yeah,
As a CISO, is it more 24/7? You need to be on point. So in the weekend, there could be a P1 all of a sudden,
yeah,
and you have to be there.
yeah,
Is that also the case now? And how did that change affect you?
yeah. Um, yeah, not it didn't change significantly. Like in the past, like I said, I was also responsible for operations. Then also you could have a P1, not being maybe a cybersecurity one, but I don't know. SAP went down because of I don't know technical error.
Yeah.
Then it stops, and then you need to fix it. Yeah, sometimes also then it was called in the weekend or overnight or whatever. So that's not really changed. I think it's also not healthy. I hear a lot of CISOs saying like, "Oh yeah, I'm on 24/7." You go, like, yeah. Of course, if something significant happens, they need to call me. But also, I think you need to have some processes in place that at least 24/7 were covered, right? So of course we have crisis manuals, we have crisis procedures, we don't know exactly if something happens, who will be called, who's on point, etc. And of course, if there's a significant cybersecurity issue, I will be there. But you cannot be solely responsible for people having their phone on. There needs to be a solid process around it.
And it's also with the organization of 23,000 people. It's kind of harsh to say, okay, we have one person that should always be on point if something happens in the IT
No, that's
landscape.
impossible. Yeah. And we have a good, I think I'm part of the IT leadership team. We have a very good leadership team. And also there we're backing up each other.
And for you, you pivoted into cyber. I asked you before already before we started recording, but you seem to really like it. Is it for you now also the way forward? Do you feel like, okay, this is the line of work I see myself for the
Yeah.
next 5 to 10 years? I'm gonna stay in cyber.
Yeah, I really like it. Like I shared earlier, I really like the way people are helping each other and they're supporting each other. I think it's a very strong community. I decided to say like, yeah, just go out there, reach out to people, get to know people. It will help you a lot. I think you can help each other. I also like the content. It's really nice to work on cybersecurity because there's this people part, behavioral change. How do you make sure people behave in a way that you limit your risk exposure? It's the process part. So how do you set up processes? How do you handle an incident? How do you prevent incidents? It's about technology. So how can you use tools? How can you use AI? What's the future of AI? What will it mean for our organization? So they're all different components that you need to blend together into a common approach. And it's really nice. Like I say, I'm a transformational guy. I really like transformations, bringing stuff from A to B, how to do it, how to build a plan around it, how to do the storytelling around it, how to align people around it, how to sell it, how to at least share it with boards or your top 200 or whatever. That's really my passion.
But also from a budget perspective, you cannot give unlimited funds to the cybersecurity team because it needs to be in balance with
Yeah.
what you're protecting. Yeah. But I can relate to that cybersecurity professionals are usually very risk averse. So they would always, and that's also their role to look, okay, where could it go wrong? And yeah, so in one hand, it's also good that they have this mindset, but it's hard to satisfy them because they also see, okay, well,
Yeah.
it's not 100%, maybe we're at 70%, and you might think, okay, that's good because we focus on the 5 top priorities right now.
Yeah.
But for them, it makes sense that they feel, okay, we're not where I would like to be as a security professional.
What I also notice is that people who come from IT or have a technology background or a risk background, they're always looking like how to protect or do a risk assessment, or keep this safe or and that. And like I said, with karate, you can train for your own. You can do these katas, right? These exercises that you do alone.
Yeah.
But if you want to become a good fighter, you just need to fight. You need to go out there and spar with other people, etc. I think the same is with cybersecurity. I think you can only test how good you are by really testing.
So a bit of that fighter mindset.
Yeah, but you can only become better if you want to become a competitive karate or kickboxer or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, you can train.
You need to get in the ring.
You need to train and you do it on a sack or you do it, I don't know, whatever. But in the end of the day, you need to go out with somebody who moves and who does unpredictable things, and then you learn, right?
Yeah.
And you grow much faster than just having your own mindset about risks, etc.
Yeah, I love the analogy. Yeah. And it's also getting a kick sometimes and see, okay, here I can handle
Yeah.
the kick, but please don't kick me at that spot again because that really hurts.
But the pain will go away,
Yeah.
but the learning will never go away.
Yeah.
So I think that's good.
And for the people that might be in a similar situation as you were, so that there is a cybersecurity job opening or you might want to pivot careers, what would you advise them? So how fun can it be to work in cyber? Because on the one hand, you say, okay, it's also a bit risk averse, and it's a very serious job. Yeah, you need to focus. It's serious. The stakes are high. But on the other side, you work now for 1 year, and you seem to have a lot of fun with it as well. So what are the fun aspects of it, and how would you step into the field?
For me, the fun was, I can only speak for myself, I like transformation. So if I'm in cookie factory or I'm in this or I'm in a CISO role, whatever, wherever I come, wherever I go, I always have this mentality. I come somewhere and I immediately start to look like, oh, this is nice, this is nice, this is a nice studio. Hey, what can we, hey, if I would do this, right? I think it's my mindset. I'm continuously looking at transformational piece. I think you need to be curious to learn and to improve. I think that's one. I think secondly, I would say like, yeah, if you're in this role, you need to be also very strong from an analytics point of view. Yeah, just go out there, share your experience with other organization. Get insights from other organizations and mutually work together. I think that you can accelerate so much. You learn from that also, right? You hear from others, you share, you're challenged. That's also nice.
Yeah, so good security professionals should also go out there. I think that's an important lesson.
Yeah, because you need to go out there. I think it's a strategic leadership position.
But also at the lower levels. Say you
Oh yeah,
you just started your career as a consultant or you work SOC level 1. It's still important to go and look outside of your own organization and stay up to date. Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah, and I think CIOs, but also CISOs, predominantly CISOs, I think they have a big role to play in the future, because if you look, I read a research, I think last week, and then if you look at the top 100 supervisory board members, I think it was a study about that, and you look how many people there are with technology background or knowledge, I think you can count on one hand, right?
Yeah.
And then if you go even deeper and say like, yeah, how much of these people have technology background, but also have cybersecurity knowledge or exposure? Yeah, it's really limited. I think there were 2 or 3 in Netherlands. I cannot recall exactly, but that says something about where organizations are going. If the supervisory board has a certain view, it's predominantly not technology and certainly not cybersecurity. I see a trend where supervisory board and executive board are getting more exposed and are more interested in cybersecurity, but really having people on the board or on the supervisory board which has that background, I think that's still limited.
So there's a big opportunity.
Yeah, so and that will evolve. It will not change overnight, but I think if they're not in the board or not in the supervisory board, at least you need to have senior people in your organization who can advise them, who can guide them, take them by the hand, educate them, share experiences from other organizations, because that's my experience with boards, supervisory boards. If you bring experiences from other organizations, they're very susceptible to that.
Okay. Yeah.
I did that in the past. When I was responsible for our ingredients business, I just brought a similar organization from Switzerland. I brought the CIO in, and he just explained, because I think they were one step ahead of us in a certain area. And he just explained what he did, why he did it, what the pitfalls were, etc. They were speaking about that for a year, and that gave him 1 hour more insight than what I could provide with consultancy companies or my own experience, etc. Just showing like, hey, real life examples of this is how organizations did it. Did were the pitfalls?
Yeah.
It went well. Yeah, that really works well.
Very smart. Very cool. Yeah, that's a nice learning. Yeah. Also for others that cannot really get through to the board, because I hear that a lot also for CISOs that want to get the budget available. It's always a bit of a fight. But so if you bring some competitors or other type of organizations with you, that's
yeah, and I think, and that's also for learning for me, you need to bring it out of the IT sphere towards a business risk. And then they will say like, yeah, but okay, we have geopolitical risks, and we have this, and we have cybersecurity risks, and floods, and natural disasters, etc., etc., etc. But a lot of these risks that they are mentioning, cybersecurity is also in. So you cannot say cybersecurity is a separate risk. For instance, in geopolitical situations like, I don't know, war in Ukraine or whatever, cybersecurity is also a risk in that, right? So cybersecurity is sometimes a risk underneath another risk. And I think that's what you need to try to get them to understand. Saying like, yeah, it's geopolitical. It's not only a war on, terrible war, by the way, on physically, but also in cybersecurity. And there are multiple areas where cybersecurity, or at least cyber war, is being used as a means to an end, right?
Yeah, and that will only increase the
Yes.
cyber warfare. Yeah, yeah. That's also what we discussed with the state actors. I think regular people don't understand how much cyber warfare there's going on behind the scenes.
If you can really, in an engaging way, share that with your board,
Yeah,
or supervisory board, and then say like, okay, this is what's happening outside there, and this is how it translates to our organization, and you do that with some storytelling techniques that they understand. Because I think that's also a big role of a CISO or a CIO, is that you need to, sometimes these technical concepts are complex. Yeah, and you cannot say, yeah, these are smart people on the board. Yes, they're very smart.
but not tech savvy.
But yeah, if you've never been exposed to technology or technology problems, yeah, you need to have somebody who can explain it in a understandable way, who can connect the dots, and who can explain it to you in business language instead of technology terms, etc. And everybody always says like, yeah, sure, yeah, but really telling an engaging story about technology on a board level, I think it's a skill.
Yeah, so you don't need to be a super tech pen tester kind of guy or girl.
Well, maybe it doesn't even help you.
No. Yeah, yeah. So there's a nice path for people that have that consulting skill, commercial skill, almost. Yeah. And now we talked a bit about your early days as a karate kid. Then somebody that want to become a fighter pilot, and then 25, 28 years in all sorts of transformational roles.
It's interesting how a career can evolve.
Yeah, but when you started, cyber was not much of a thing yet, and that's what we always see. So I was curious why people dived into cyber and what was sort of a pivotal moment, and also interesting how you got this CISO job then. But I'm now also curious. Okay, where do you see yourself in the next couple of years, and also in relation to how do you see the cyber sphere
Yeah.
changing for the future in the next years to come?
I think there are few developments. One, cybersecurity will become more and more a executive board or senior leadership board. So I think what I said, transformation wise, storytelling wise, I think it becomes even more important. That's one. I think secondly, with the development on technology, with AI, etc., you need to be able to grasp what's going on and to how you can protect your organization against it, but also how can you leverage it in your organization. There's regulation coming up. I think critical infrastructure like the railways and Ascent, they were already part of it. Now it's also going to food and to other areas. So I think there will be more and more drive for organizations to do something about cybersecurity because you become part of NIS 2. So I think that's a key area. So I think there's not only a pull to get something done, but also a push to get something done.
Yeah.
If I see the number of organizations who I read a study that are currently already working on NIS 2, it's quite low still. Yeah. So if you want to be ready in October next year, at least to a certain extent, I think you need to at least start accelerating. I think that's the topic. And that there will be more and more cyber events. So also protecting your brand, protecting your reputation, I think becomes a significant part of your role. And that's not, let's say, 10, 15 years ago, cybersecurity being in the, I don't know, somewhere in IT.
Yeah.
But you really become a key player in protecting the reputation of your organization. And I think it's even the other way around. It's not only inhibiting the business, but it's also how can you really drive the business. And I'm not saying cybersecurity will increase your profit, but indirectly it does, because if you can provide continuity, if you can protect the brand value, etc., in a certain way, you're contributing to business success.
Yep.
And it's not always easy to translate in numbers or translate in clear KPIs, because in the past, when we had a successful migration weekend of a project, I always said to my teams, like, the biggest compliment you get is nobody calls you on Monday morning.
Yeah.
There's nobody coming to the IT office and patting you on the back saying like, hey guys, you did a great job.
Yeah.
I think the biggest compliment you can get is nobody even noticed, or they went to a new system and they were thinking like, oh, that was pretty smooth.
And we always finalize with the last question. And that's if you can share one signal message that goes across all the CISOs across the world, what would that message be?
I think that's really is if you wanna drive your transformation, you should also be a very good storyteller.
Yeah.
So if you have this hacker background or your compliance background, I think that's very good start. Or very good start is very solid foundation, but you need to be able to convey your message to a board or to a top 200 or to executive in your organization. You need to take your team along. You need to convert these very technical concepts into something that people understand. I think that's all key. You need to be able to elevate your strategic plan into something that people understand. It's all numbers and whatever but why are we doing this? Why is it important? And why is cybersecurity important? And what does it mean for our business? And sometimes we think that people know, and they know. But the reality is that sometimes they need a little bit more of a hand-holding and really explaining what it's all about.
Yeah, beautiful.
What's out there. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you so much, Carlo. It was
You're
really,
welcome. Thank you.
really pleasant.
Pleasure to be here.
Thanks. Thanks for listening to this episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Stay safe, stay curious, And until next time, in the district.